Hello everybody and welcome to my 100 subscriber special. In this video I will be showcasing some of my favourite plane designs and explaining some of their features. Let's start with the one that's already on the screen. So this is a small and lightweight, by lightweight I mean 35 tons, space plane that is designed for carrying scientific experiments. The experiments are in here. As you can see, I've actually managed to get them all in. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about are the canards. I like using canards on space planes because they give my craft the ability to pitch up effectively at very low speed. It's really helpful for takeoffs and landings. So moving on, the wings are of the delta shape, and as I'm showing you, the wings are made by putting two big-ass wing strakes next to each other and aligning them. The delta shape is a good aerodynamic form for supersonic speeds, and it also allows for effective control during the atmospheric entry, or to give it its common name, re-entry. Okay, I also want to mention the RCS, which I have used a mod called RCS Build Aid to balance it for a minimum of unwanted rotation during the use of thrusters. So yeah, the way I've done the balancing is by A, careful positioning, and B, turning down the thrust within the output by the RCS. Okay, now I want to mention the important part, the part that makes the whole lot of the rest of this work, the engines. It's these rockets from the Orbit Portals Technologies mod. They have integrated air intakes and the ability to increase their thrust based on atmospheric density. Basically what that means is the thicker an atmosphere they're in, the more thrust they get. And they work on any atmosphere, which is a useful feature for pretty much just simply because it makes your plane far more capable as for when taken interplanetary. Yeah, so they're highly efficient and have the ability to produce a large amount of thrust, and they only consume liquid fuel, which is very useful simply because it helps to keep the fuel types down and helps to make the most of your fuel tanks. A lot of the parts on this vessel are fuel tanks, and they all contain liquid fuels. Yes, I also want to showcase some other variations of this design which are similar. I will start with the one that can carry more passengers. So compared to the optimum crew of about 3 or 4 that the last one had, although it does have space for 12 admittedly, this one is designed to comfortably and optimally hold a crew of 16 Kerbals, as well as acting as a kind of ferry between surface sites and orbiting spacecraft. Here it says, okay, but some of you who are more familiar with this part will only see a crew capacity of 14. However, inside this cargo bay there is a command pod with another 2 passengers, space with another 2 crew members. 60 in total, and again, similar design. Same engines, same wings, canards. The RCS is a bit different though. I've changed the side-mounted blocks for a nose cone of integrated RCS components. Also, similar weight, 35 tons. Which, again, helpful for keeping the weight down and making it more compatible with various environments. Okay, time to show you the cargo version of this design. Again, it shares more similarity with the previous plane. Again, similarly balanced RCS, same nose cone, same wings, same engines, but no passenger space, and also there are no canards, which I have done simply because having canards on this design would put the centre of lift too far forward, especially if the craft is designed to put payloads in from the back. So putting a payload in will shift the centre of mass backwards, which, again, like canards, I like having them, but I know when not to use them. Okay, so that's the cargo. As you can see, 2 long cargo bays. Again, same engines. This one's actually a lot lighter, only 27 tons. Well, actually more like 28. But that's simply because the payload that goes inside here will make up the rest of the mass difference. Okay, on to the next design, which I think has got an interesting feature that a few people might want to see explained. So I'll start with the engines. So we have these Project ELU multi-mode nuclear engines. Those basically for atmospheric operation and as a form of backup or alternative or boost power source of thrust for if I need it. But the main engine on here is this Ouroboros fusion engine. And its purpose, well, it's the main engine. This should always be on unless there's a reason to have it off. Okay, this one is particularly difficult to use on a space plane simply because of its radiator requirements. I have dealt with the radiators by placing them in this service bay, which I will admit is not very realistic, but I always prefer to imagine that the wings or tail surface and the aerodynamic surfaces are the ones which contain the radiators, so I can it's basically, yeah. At that point, it's basically just me justifying my own actions, which is not important to this video, so I'm just going to move on. Anyway, on to the tiny landing gear mounted directly underneath the fusion engine. That is there for safety, specifically to prevent the engine from hitting the ground during takeoff or landing, which is important because if you're going too fast, then the engine will blow up, and it's kind of a bit fragile physically, so it's actually kind of easy to blow it up when hitting it too hard. Never mind about the clock. I'll just pause for a second and wait. Okay, I am back now, and on to the next thing. So, okay, the hydrogen needs electricity in order to stay in the tanks and not boil off. To get that power, there's a small reactor in this engine, which generates a small amount of electricity. And there are also these two nuclear reactors built into the service bay next to the radiators. Okay, that concludes that one. So now it's time to show off another plane, which I definitely know someone's going to be interested in. And yes. Okay, the main feature of this spacecraft plane is the engine. The Surge. It consumes electric charge and intake atmosphere to fly in any atmosphere. It's pretty good, but it uses a lot of electric charge, so that's a bit hard to generate. However, I have this nuclear reactor. It generates enough electricity to power the engine, and it does it in a way that is aerodynamically sound. Well, as in, what I mean by that is, it's a reactor, but it's got an aerodynamic casing, and built-in radiators, so that's nice. Oh yeah, the engine also has built-in air intakes, so that's helpful. Okay, right. Done with the planes, let's move on to the rockets. I am going to start with the Ultra Heavy Lift Launch Vehicle. And how it is. The reason why I call it Ultra Heavy Lift is because this rocket can take a 270-ton payload into low Curve in orbit and be fully reusable. Okay, yeah, so I've got this big cargo bay, and on top of the cargo bay I have some drogue chutes, help with second stage recovery. Yeah, so basically it was originally designed to carry heavy fuel tanks for nuclear salt water. But yeah, I've got a huge cargo bay, and I put the fuel in the cargo bay, of course. Anyway, the really interesting thing about this rocket is the engines. So let's get the boring ones out of the way. These are some SRBs. They're part of the stock game, and they're there for a bit of extra thrust. The interesting engines, let me just look it up so you can see them better. I'll start down here. The 19 Guaradon liquid methane engines, which, as the name suggests, they use methane as fuel. Fairly straightforward. Their engines, they use methane, an oxidizer, and there are 19 of them. Interesting. The really interesting engines are on the second stage, and they're hidden by step. Let me take off the bearing and show you the nuclear second stage. This features an aerospike engine, as well as these 8 smaller engines. These are all powered by liquid hydrogen and have an oxidizer afterburner for extra thrust. But because this rocket is going to be mostly carrying a very heavy payload, its fuel tanks almost entirely contain afterburner. However, I do have these small hydrogen tanks for deorbiting and any required and the landing burns, and they just contain hydrogen, as opposed to the hydrogen oxidizer that the others contain. Okay, that's that one done. On to the next one, which is probably one of my favourite interplanetary designs I have ever made, or at least in my opinion it's my favourite. Yes, it says FFRE, and that stands for Fission Fragment Rocket Engine, which is this thing at the bottom, which also happens fuel tank built into it. And yes, it does use uranium as a fuel. Okay, radiators, lots of unknowns. So the triangular shape, like a set of backwards wings, that is actually based on the real designs that I have seen for various NASA rockets which use advanced engines. We know designs are more like blueprints, but this shape of radiator shows up a lot. So with that, the video is finished. And before I go, I have two videos that I'm going to make next. One of them is going to be a cinematic, and the other one is going to be a sequel to my Far Future Technologies tutorial mod, which will cover everything that I didn't cover in the first one. And I would like you in the comments below to say which video you would like to see first. Okay, that's that. Okay, that's that. I'm finished now. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.